Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting of Dallas Social Toastmasters. Today, of course, is March 96th of 2020. And our topic tonight is going to be what I have learned while isolating. Before we get started, as meeting coordinator, let me mention a few things to you. Of course, we have two speakers tonight, and our timer for the evening is going to be Karen Lee. If you happen to be one of the speakers or even doing a table topics, you want to make sure that Karen Lee is going to be visible. Our vote counter is going to be Mark Sims. So votes will be sent to Mark Sims in the chat window individually to him. We are, of course, recording this meeting. So just so that everyone is aware of that, I think I'm required to mention that. If for any reason you are not on our email list, or excuse me, on our text list, I do send out text messages reminding people of the meeting. And we have a WhatsApp for anybody that is interested in being part of our WhatsApp and is not already on it. I know I've gone through and sent everybody an invite at least once. I know I had missed Nicholas, however. So if you got missed, let me know and we can get you added to that. With regard to the meeting tonight, let me go ahead and start just sharing a little bit of our agenda. Oops, one more click. There we go. Our meeting agenda is there, and of course you can find it in the usual method from member section off of our regular page. Go down to flyers, announcements, and other docs, and it's under 604, 2020 604. And it looks exactly like this, what I have learned while isolating, with a picture of an oven. All right. Now, before I do start tonight, I do want to have one other thing that I would like to do and like to take care of. It has obviously not been a really good week. In light of the events that we have had during the past couple of weeks, I would like to have everyone, if you would, to please stop your video, turn off your cameras, and observe a moment of silence for George Floyd, a tragedy that should never have happened. All right, I would like to begin our meeting. Again, my topic for this evening is going to be what I have learned while isolating. And I picked a stove, or an oven rather, as the graphic on my agenda tonight, because that's one of the things I've actually learned how to use again. I found out the hard way this week, during the past couple of weeks. Being in isolation and having to actually heat food in the house, especially reheating pizza, that I can push the bake button and set the time and walk away. And it turns out that when I come back, I got nothing because it's turned itself back off. There's one more button I have to hit. I literally thought I had put it into preheat mode and it was doing nothing for 10 minutes. And then I come back and realize, oh dear. So the oven is only one of the many things that I've relearned how to use. I also refound the microwave. Microwave I use all the time, so I'm not all that unfamiliar with it, but I learned how to do things like set it to cook for 5 minutes, then go on hold for a minute, then go on half power for about another minute, and then go on hold for another minute so that I can set all of those in motion with one button and walk away. Something that I used to know how to do, but I had completely forgotten how to do. As well as realizing where the timer button is so that I don't even have to look at the screen anymore. It's like set a 2-minute timer and push the button. Other things that I've learned this week, well, so I don't know that I would call it new, but I've gone back to running because I certainly picked the wrong year to start exercise with group classes. Group exercise classes have been a really bad choice for this year. So I'm back to running and even doing some weights at home. I have a few weights at home. I don't have anywhere near the selection that I was used to. So I've ordered some more weights in order to have a little bit more variety and smaller weight variations in between them. And one of the other things, since I'm stuck here at home, stuck in a room all day doing work for Hewlett Packard, I end up needing something else to do. So I actually got an Alexa so that I can listen to Sirius XM and things like that. So I subscribed to Sirius XM streaming, and I now have an Alexa at home that I can, whoops, be careful. Sorry, Alexa paid attention to me when I said that. I have to turn her off. The moment that you say the word Alexa, she lights up. So I bought one of those so that I would have something to listen to all day long while I'm in the room, and learning how to configure that so that this one works without having it play on all of the other Alexas that were already in the house. That was also a feature. So I'm just curious, does anybody else have anything that they have learned? I was going to open this up for just a moment. Does anybody else have anything that they have learned during isolation that they would like to share?
I just have to say, I have no idea how to use a microwave like you do now. The only thing I know how to do is hit like the 1 or 2 for like 1 minute or 2 minutes. That's about all I know. And Alexa, I need my computer, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I thought about changing the name, mostly because I have a few friends that, how can I put it? They like to screw with Alexa when they come over. We've had some really obscene items end up on people's lists because they'll tell them to put all sorts of nasty items on their shopping list. And Alexa will do it. If you don't, yeah, at least I've been smart enough to make sure that you have to have a PIN in order to place an order. Thank God. Otherwise, it would be even worse. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I do. When we had started with the quarantine and the self-isolation and things like that, I actually, might not sound like a big thing, but I actually started washing my car on my own. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was a workout on its own. But then, around end of March, I had to travel to Washington. So since I'm here, I don't have my car with me. But yeah, at least until the time I was there, I had started washing my car. It was fun.
Right. That's something I used to do all the time on my own. I used to do it every few weeks, but man, for the new car, I don't know that I've washed the new car that I've got once. I kind of got lazy. One other thing that I was surprised that I had to learn how to do was actually color my wife's hair. That was an interesting challenge. Not cut, thank God, just color. But let's just say that before I was done, it looked like I had turned the entire kitchen into a Dexter kill room with all the plastic I had put down. Or maybe not a kill room in this case so much as a D-Y-E room. But I was going to make sure her hair color was a very much red, dark red brown or auburn, and I did not want red all over everything in the kitchen. So I put down a total of 5 or 6 pieces of plastic, and it really looked pretty severe. And it worked all right. You know, I did the same thing. We actually did it outside on the patio to make sure that we didn't get anything if we dropped or spilled any of the containers. And it worked really, really great until I tried to tie her hands to the chair with the cable ties. That was about when she started to object to it. Just kidding. Anybody else before we move on?
So I've actually started going back to the office. We're kind of full steam ahead. Everyone's practicing social distancing, but I'm been cooking a lot recently. So that's been really good. Making a lot of kind of various. I like Greek food a lot. I like Mexican food. So making a lot of that that kind of food. It's been nice.
You know, I admire people that actually can do the cooking. I've tried doing spaghetti. I think I cooked that crap for like 5 hours and never did turn red. So I pretty much, I'm okay with the microwave. On the other hand, I used to have I think I can still find it, a browning grill. I used to actually do steaks in the microwave with a browning grill.
Oh, wow.
So, and I would do cakes and cupcakes and all that kind of stuff all the time.
Mm.
Cookies, not so much. Cookies don't brown right. All right. At this point, we're going to go on and we'll go through the duty holders for tonight.
Wait, Mark, this is Dawn. Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
I cannot get my camera started, but this has never happened. So I don't even know where to begin. Am I making all that noise too?
I think so.
Okay, I'll just play with it a while. I'll turn it.
Log out and log back in.
Okay.
Maybe even reboot your PC.
I would not think you would have to reboot. I'd just try logging out and logging in first.
Just Zoom, you mean?
I would just log out and log back into Zoom, yeah.
Okay, I'll leave you all alone until I figure this out.
Okay. First duty holder tonight is going to be our timer. Timer is Karen Lee. Karen, please tell us what you're going to be doing.
I'm going to be timing the prepared speeches, table topics, and evaluations. For table topics and evaluations, I'm going to use these handy-dandy non-technical sheets of paper. This is for the table topics that you qualify green for 1 minute, and table topics and evaluations, green for 1 minute, yellow for 1:30. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and 2 minutes is the red. And if you go over 2 minutes 30 seconds, then you're disqualified. I understand the prepared speeches tonight are 5 to 7 minutes. So for the 5 minutes, you get the green. Then the 5 minute, let's see, 5 to 7. So then 7 minutes, yellow, and then over 7 minutes, 30 seconds, the red. And back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Minor redirect.
It's actually 5, 6, and 7.
Minor redirect, 5, 6, and 7.
And then also
Put up red at 7
evaluation.
and then hold the red up all the way through 7:30.
Yeah, and
Okay.
evaluations are 2 to 3.
2 to 3. Well, thank you.
Yeah, so it'll be 2, 2:30.
I
and
got it wrong. Thank you.
All right. Karen, I would have been nastier. I would have actually written yellow in the red color and written, I would have used different colors just to mess with people, but that you did the right thing. All right,
Okay.
so next, our posture bell and vote counter are both Mark Sims. Mark, if you would please describe both of your duties.
As posture bell duty holder, I will observe people's body language and movements and posture to the extent that I can. I'll be looking for any distracting things you might do, such as maybe touching your face. I guess I couldn't see you if you're clasping your hands or hands are in your pocket, but anything that I can pick up and give feedback to you that may prevent you in the future from doing something distracting when speaking, I will do so when called upon by the general evaluator. As vote counter, I will count the votes. You'll have an opportunity to vote for the best speaker, best evaluator, best table topics participant, and best of the big three. And guests, Ms. Collins, you're welcome to vote also. And the way you vote is when you're prompted to, you send a message to me, Mark Sims, through private chat. I'll tally the votes. In the event of a tie, I will silently break the tie and then announce the results at the end of the evening. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Our final duty holder of the evening is going to be Nicholas Elwood, who's going to be doing both out counter and grammarian. Nicholas, please explain your duties.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My duty as the odd counter is going to be listening carefully for distractions verbally, such as and so, but, and other filler words and sounds. I'm going to keep track of those repeated words as well, like the, I, and I will also keep track of long pauses if in fact they are distracting, not if they are part of the speech. When I hear these, I'm going to write down or notate anything that I find distracting, and I will not use a horn to honk. I'm going to write down and tally everything, and then at the end of the meeting, I will present my findings for each speech and table topic speech, excuse me. I'm also going to be the grammarian tonight. I'm going to pay close attention to any and all speakers, listening carefully to the language they use. I'm also going to take note of any misuses of the English language, as well as very, very strong uses. I'm also going to introduce the word of the day for today's meeting. I actually don't have the word of the day yet, but I will procure that right now. Each speaker will use word of the day once I procure it, of course. And then in order to qualify for best table topic, you must use the word of the day in response to that question. I'll give a report and a grammarian usage report at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's see, I'm looking to see. We are still missing Dawn. She came back in, did not have a camera, and has disappeared again.
She's on, Mark.
Oh, I'm trying my phone. We'll try my phone.
Oh, you are back on. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yes, you're on a different.
Yeah, I'll just do my phone.
I'm not sure what happened with the other one. It's interesting. Okay, so with that, I need to point out a couple of quick things. First, thank you, Marsha Collins, for joining us again. We appreciate you being here. We are going to start our prepared speeches. Our first prepared speech, we're going to do them in a slightly different order because I unfortunately put the speakers in the wrong order on the agenda. The evaluators are in the correct order, but the speakers were not. Dawn was supposed to be, let's see, so what we have actually, oops, where's Michael? I need to see, because I had it had it incorrect. It is supposed to be Rob being evaluated by Dawn. Dawn, are you ready at this point?
Sure.
Okay, I didn't know if you were still getting settled. Our first speaker tonight then will be Rob Giles. Rob's evaluator is going to be Don Levy. Please, Don, tell us what Rob's goals are for this speech.
Okay, so Rob's speech length goal is 5 to 7 minutes. He will be doing the presentation mastery path. Sorry, I feel like there's an echo.
We are getting a slight echo, but it's not too bad.
Okay.
That's, I think, because you have kept your phone on the table, it's covering the mic area or the speaker area, so you're getting a feedback.
Should move it away from the computer. Is that better?
Yeah, no echo that time.
Okay, sorry. And then his project is understanding your communication style. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Don. This will be Rob's speech. His title is Say It With Style. Rob Giles. Rob Giles, Say It With Style. 5 to 7 minutes.
You're on mute.
How you say it. This is a project from the old Competent Communicator manual, from the traditional or legacy program that Toastmasters had, and really is coming to an end at the end of this month. It really was a remarkable project it helps you to learn what words to use when you're speaking and how to present and what to do for certain audiences, one audience or another, who you're speaking to. So a very important part in communication. How many of you have ever thought when you were listening to a friend or a coworker or possibly even a Toastmaster that, whoa, I can't get a word in edgewise, or they just don't understand what I'm saying, or possibly even they keep interrupting me? Fellow Toastmasters, Mr. Toastmaster, communication is a very important part of life. It helps us to build trust. It helps us to build understanding and relationships. Communication is very, very important in how we deal with life and how we learn and grow. I myself have a main style that's sometimes referred to as supportive. So a supportive communication style. Now, this communication style lends itself to being patient, taking your time, and listening. And these are great qualities, right? I would say that everybody probably feels that these are some great qualities in communication. However, I am also verbose. I know that many of you know that. And I can sometimes over-explain something or re-explain something or even the obvious. I don't know how many of you know or recognize the commercials that run for Hotels.com. There's a character on there called Captain Obvious, where he states in every commercial something that's very, very obvious. Well, guess what? That's me. I'm Captain Obvious. But how I communicate is important, and my communication style, the supportive, can be adjusted. It can be changed to benefit the situation or the person that I'm communicating with. For me, changing might help me with a coworker or a fellow Toastmaster officer. So how can I go about making changes to help? Well, as I mentioned, my main style is supportive. And this is great, especially for family and friends, right? This is something that can help with connecting with that person. It can help with understanding, and it's great for things like having a shoulder to cry on, bending an ear, or even possibly giving some tough love. But that's not always great in a work environment. Work environment might require an adjustment, a change to help to facilitate a few things, to help to facilitate a better exchange of ideas, better exchange of information, something that will allow things to progress and accomplish things. One great example is my friend Courtney. She's one of my best friends. And in our personal life, I deal back and forth with her mostly with the supportive communication style. And this communication style is great in that environment. But when we get to work, we work together. When we get to work, that has to change in order for us to bloom, to blossom. And I have to move to communication styles that I don't normally use, a couple which are analytical and initiating. So those two particular styles can help me to deal with Courtney, who by nature is an analytical person. And when she's at work, she's even more focused. She wants to work on the goals, on what we need to accomplish, and how we get there, what the process is. So she focuses in. So it helps for me to communicate with her by actually changing or adjusting my communication style to a more analytical or initiating communication style. And this helps to facilitate, as I mentioned, the exchange of information so that we can reach our goals and become successful. In the same vein, Toastmasters officers. As a Toastmaster officer, I can make some adjustments that can help me to communicate and deal with other Toastmaster officers and even our Toastmasters Club or Toastmasters in general. Now, for me, this is a little bit more of a challenge. I have a hard time moving from that supportive to a more analytical communication style. I think possibly because I have a strong passion for Toastmasters and specifically for our club. And I think that kind of gets in the way. And I can probably improve by either blending in a little bit more of the analytical or initiating style of communication and a lot less of that supportive. That can help as far as being more succinct and having a more succinct meeting, and to help benefit everybody as far as understanding and the communication in general. So that's a place where I need to work on and possibly move a little bit more toward an analytical style of communication as opposed to that supportive, which may be a little bit more time consuming. Another one of our methods or styles that can be great for Toastmasters, it's really more of a managerial or supervisory or even leadership role or style, and that is direct communication style. This is more of a get to the point kind of style. Let's get to somewhere, make sure you understand, and we'll get things done. That's the direct communication style, and it's great for leaders, especially maybe a Toastmasters club president, or even any other officers. And then this also can be applied in certain specific situations. All of the styles can actually come into that. The styles can be either blended in together, or they can complement each other, or possibly one gets out of the way and the other one takes over entirely. And these things can help to benefit everybody that's involved, whether it's a particular person or it's a specific situation. How we say it to somebody is very important. I think that adjusting our communication styles is something that we can all learn to do in a better manner. I think that we probably do this already, naturally. We change how we talk, as I mentioned, from friend to coworker. We do this, but do we recognize it all the time? Do we use it to the best advantage that we can? Because if we do, if we become a little bit more self-aware, then maybe we can understand, we can connect, and we can relate to those that we're talking to. We can communicate better. How you say it, very, very important. Remember that. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. I find it particularly interesting because I'm obviously a native Dallasite. I've been here all of my life. And it turns out that when I joined a group that was from New Jersey, New Hampshire, up there in the East, there's an entirely different etiquette and an entirely different speed at which they talk. There are no pauses. You always feel like you talk about never getting a word in edgewise. Everything is just done so quickly. There are no pauses. There's no time to jump in. You always feel like you're interrupting. They are always interrupting you is the way it feels, but that's just normal for them. It's not at all considered impolite or anything. It's just part of the style of the East. And it is one of the things that I had to learn how to do in order to talk to them effectively. And it was interesting and a challenge watching the differences as I did so. It made a difference. All right, thank you, Rob. Our next speaker for the evening is going to be Dagan Newland. Dagan's evaluator is John Vessels. John, if you would please tell us what Dagan's goals are for his speech tonight.
Dagan's goals for tonight are to learn and review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. The title of his speech is Catch a Liar, and it's going to be 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you, John. I always love when Dagan does these particular kinds of speeches. In fact, I've asked him for hard copy and online references to some of the material because it's always been a personal favorite topic of mine. Please, if you would, welcome Dagan Newland for his speech, Catch a Liar, Dagan Newland.
Welcome, everybody. So my speech is Catch a Liar. Do you have what it takes? Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about what my, a little bit about my background and how I, excuse me, sorry, how I, go about, catching a liar in my research. So first of all, I have about 20 years of experience in loss prevention or, asset protection before I'm in my current role as a dock manager. I had to switch roles because my former store closed down and I wasn't able to stay in loss prevention anymore. But nevertheless, I do have a extensive background with that, with the current company I'm at, with probably about almost 17 years, and previous companies with that, a few more years to equal a total of 20 years. So part of the training was, it's pretty much kind of on the job training, where I watch for shoplifters. You got to look for certain things like people looking around at the cameras, people picking up multiple items of the same thing, people more worried about where the associate is. There's a bunch of different things that we learn on a job, but there's also things that I've learned going to a company training sponsored program. They sent us to what they call Wicklander and Lewinsky, which is they show us how to interview people, and also in that process they show us how to tell if somebody's lying. So when it comes down to interviewing, I'm talking to somebody to see if they did something wrong, and they either get that fight or flight syndrome, and that's kind of explained where they either want to basically fight or flight. But in an interview situation, it's not really technically fighting. They just really get upset at the whole situation, or they just want to walk out and leave. But during this process, you have to look at them, and when you're questioning them and asking them questions, you want to learn if they're telling you the truth or not. And by doing that, it's all about body language. Whether it's going to be through the actual physical body or the eye movements and things like that. So at this point, I'm getting into the topic of how to spot those. So first of all, there's several attitudes that are displayed by truthful and non-truthful people, overall aspects. The truthful people, stay calm, relaxed, they're concerned, they're sincere, and they're cooperative. But the untruthful, they're impatient, tense, they could be defensive, they're completely unconcerned or overly concerned, or even overly friendly and polite. But there's a commonality of both, though, is that they could both be nervous, they could both be angry and quiet. Now a little bit more body specific, for just a few here. Like for the trunk and shoulders, the truthful people have really good posture and they feel comfortable, whereas the untruthful, they have gross body shifts, or they're frozen in place. Well, they could be excessive trunk bleeding, or they could have a rapid respiration pattern. Now, when it comes to the hands, the truthful people are comfortable, they're coordinated, they're very relaxed. The hands are warm and dry. The untruthful, though, they could have excessive tension in their muscles, really move too fast, and have, damp and clammy hands. When it comes to the neck and head area, the truthful person, they have general expressions. They may, kind of nod a little lightly. They have really good eye contact, at least 60% of the time, that they're talking to you. Their head could be slightly tilted to either side. But the untruthful, they may have their head back or they could forward. They have phony expressions, and they nod from their waist, not their head. Now, when it comes to the eye movement, this is where it might get a little confusing, because The truthful people, they kind of tend to look left, but when they're looking left, it's actually your right. So the truth, when they look up, like I don't know if you can see on camera, but up and left, they're visually recalling. When they're left and straight, straight across, they're recalling something they heard. And when they look left and down, it's an internal dialogue. Whereas the truthful people, they look, untruthful people, they look right. So when they look right, it's going to be your left. So when they look up and right, it's going to be visually creating, and straight right is something they heard, and down right is internal feelings. Now, I'm not sure if anybody knows what internal dialogue means, but it usually refers to a conversation that takes place, in an inner self. It's kind of unspoken. So basically, a person is talking about themselves, making a decision about what to do and how to respond to a situation. And now that you have some of the tools to spot a liar, you can use these during your everyday conversation with anyone to see if they're giving you the truth. Whether it be your, kids, your kids that you have, or your grandkids, or, your boss, to make sure that, he's telling you the truth about things going on, in the workplace or what have you. So but the one thing I do want to stress though is all these things I told you, some people, it could be a little different. So you got to really have a baseline to really judge these. You can use it as a tool to get the feel if they're telling you the truth, but knowing their baseline on how they act in normal day situations, it will really help you out. But if you don't know somebody's baseline, don't take this for the end all, saying that they're lying, because, there could be, for example, with the eyes, most people look left when they're telling the truth, but there are some people that actually look right when they're telling the truth. Somebody could be, just nervous. That doesn't mean they're lying. It's just, just they're a nervous type person. So I hope you take these in the thought, and I hope you catch a liar. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dagan. I always love the information when you present it. I had, I should say, a boss that had particular tells that were very much in line with what you were describing. You would know when you were in a meeting with him if he looked in particular places and would not look in your eyes when he was answering questions. You knew that he was not being truthful, and I used that to my advantage many times to figure out, yeah, I'm not getting the real answer here. It did not necessarily, well, what it meant varied. It might have meant that he was unable or unwilling to tell me something that he did know, or it might be that he was just outright telling me a falsehood. But I got to where I could identify it quickly, and it did serve me well. So I appreciate that. All right, for both of the speakers tonight, I need to check with our timer. Our timer, of course, is Karen. Karen, how did both of our speakers do on their times tonight?
Both of our speakers qualified, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Karen. All right, that means that both of our speakers are qualified for a vote tonight. Our vote counter, of course, for tonight is going to be Mark Sims. So I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things to send a vote for who you thought did a better job as speaker to Mark Sims privately in chat. Marcia, as our guest, you are also more than welcome to vote. We always love to get the feedback. And for everyone also on the call, if you have particular comments that you would like to send to any of our speakers on things that you thought that they particularly did well, perhaps a missed opportunity that they could have followed, feel free to do that as well. Give everybody just a moment to do that, just to make sure that everybody has a second to accomplish that, both of those goals.
Yeah, also remember that Mark Sims is listed as Mark, and that,
good point.
that Mark Schroeder is listed as Mark Schroeder. So Mark is the one that you want to chat with.
Yeah, you want to do Mark without any other adornments on his name.
Mark Schroeder, I've got a question for you.
Yes, Karen.
On the votes, now that's not under participants, is it? To get to Mark Sims' name?
It would be under chat. You should see chat 2 to the right of that.
Okay, got it.
And
Thank
then
you.
under pull down, the pull down would normally say everyone, and you can select individual.
Thank you.
Absolutely, no problem. All right, at this point, we will move to the second portion of our meeting, which of course is the table topics portion. That is going to be led by Indu Pathmanathan. Did I say that approximately correct? All
No,
right.
point.
All right, so Indu will be taking over as table topics. Please welcome Indu.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Toastmaster table topic section of our Toastmasters meeting. Today's theme is what I have learned. We've given this time, it's been a difficult time, but most of us have made it a point to learn something new, learn a lesson, or learn a new skill. I started this meeting by saying that I had started washing my car. It was a remarkable experience. It was fun. I also started cooking. I started baking. And I started appreciating those things in life that I normally wouldn't have. Today, I have 5 topics. Based on time availability, we'll have 3 to 5 speakers. I would like to check for volunteers. Anybody would like to volunteer for the first table topics?
I will.
I'll do it.
Okay, I heard Dawn. Okay, so go ahead, choose a number from 1 to 5. You're on mute.
Sorry, 3.
Okay. Dawn, what have you learned from 2020 so far? What have you learned from 2020 so far? Dawn.
I would say that from 2020 so far, I better learn to pray a little bit harder, a little bit more frequently. Really, I would say that I have learned how important relationships are. Friends, co-workers, neighbors, everybody. I think one thing that I have observed from nearly everybody I know, if not everybody I know, is that stress causes very short tempers and very little tolerance of other people. And I definitely noticed that in myself. I noticed that in my neighbors, my family, my friends, and my coworkers. It's pretty remarkable, really, the change in some people's personalities, I find. So I think one of the main things that I've learned is we really need to be in touch with ourselves. I really do think having a lot of faith is extremely important at this time, in faith in whatever you need to have faith in, because I think it's very easy to give up hope as the I don't know what proper word to say here, but the negative things that keep happening that are hurting people physically and emotionally and all around, that we need to have faith in something and have hope that we can keep going. So I think that's my biggest learn from this, is to have faith, to have hope, and keep on plugging away. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dawn. Who would like to be the second table topic speaker?
I can do it.
Okay. Lee, other than 3, you can choose a number from 1 to 5.
I guess 5.
Okay. At home, what is your favorite spot to travel to or spend time in? At home, What is your favorite spot to travel to or spend time in?
I'm not a real big sports person, but the one sport that I find most remarkable is the figure skating. Whenever figure skating is on, I definitely enjoy watching that and just really observing how well some of the skaters are and what all they can do on skates. I find it pretty amazing. I think the other thing that I like about skating is how it is more of an individual sport and not so much really a team sport, in that you can see someone make progress and sometimes their goal is just to do better than the last time. So while it's not necessarily as intense as football or baseball or some of the other sports, I think it's more eclectic in its nature. And I think that it can be better appreciated in some regards because it's more of an art than an actual sport. Back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lee. All right, next volunteer.
I'd like to go. Oh,
Okay, so I'll go with Nicholas now, and then we'll have Marcia next. Nicholas, between 1 to 5, without 3 and 5, what number would you like to go for?
I'll go with number 1.
Okay. Nicholas, given in isolation, would you choose to learn a new skill or master an old one, and why? Given in isolation, would you choose to learn a new skill or master an old one, and why?
Wow. Well, that's a really good question. I think that with that, I think both scenarios would actually be remarkable in this day and age and in this time, really. First and foremost, there's a lot of skills, new skills that we can all be acquiring. Like we had just talked about earlier, we were talking about cooking, talking about running again, talking about doing various activities that we may have not done previously in the past, but there are also skills that we can relearn, certainly, or master, right? Learning Excel, that was one that I've actually been doing quite a bit during this COVID pandemic and on to what's going on right now currently. I think that there's a lot of skills to be learned, especially in something like Excel, where there's so many different weird variables that you need to really master to be able to be very good at. So in all, I think that there's both scenarios are equally as effective during this time, really, or any time where people are more isolated and feel a little bit more alone. Back to you, Miss Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Nicholas. Marcia, did I get your name right?
Yes, you did. You did.
Awesome. So now we have 2 and 4. What would your choice be?
Go with 4.
Okay. Marcia, it is 2021. You are about to give a TED Talk on surviving isolation. What would you tell your audience? It is 2021. And you're about to give a TED Talk on surviving isolation. What would you tell your audience, Marcia?
Thank you. I would tell my audience during my TED Talk how remarkable isolation is. Many people would think that isolation is a terrible thing, lonely, sad. But let me tell you, these 2 months has been awesome for me. Remarkable, actually, very much so. I'm overemphasize that. I've actually enjoyed it. And the reason why I enjoyed it is that it gave me an opportunity to be still. And for many of us in this past time, we have been hustling and bustling and not being still. So being isolated affords individuals the opportunity to just be still, to take time for themselves, to be able to reflect and to understand who they are, and understand that there's a lot more to life than just always being on the go. And being by yourself is a good thing. More than being a good thing, it's actually a remarkable thing. Back to you, Lady Toastmaster.
Thank you, Marcia. We have one speaker who would like to be the lucky one to get the last topic. Okay, we have Karen.
Okay, will somebody keep time for me? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, Mark will time you.
Okay.
Karen, if you can go back in time to February 2020, what will you tell your pre-isolation self? If you can go back in time to February 2020, what will you tell your pre-isolation self? Karen.
Madam Table Topics Master, if I could go back in time to February 2020, I would tell my pre-isolation self that the coming months would be very remarkable because we had a pandemic which came here from Wuhan, China. I would also tell myself to that I was going to work on not being so anxious. Because on the night that I learned that we were having the stay-at-home order here in Dallas County, I became very anxious. So I would also tell myself that I was going to get a chance to be alone and be at home by myself and get a chance to learn some new things. I moved into this condo in the first week of March of 2020, and I got a chance to learn a few things about being handy, because I always forget with those big fluorescent lights how to put them into the lights, the light switch, because you put them in and then you turn them, and then I forget. So I also put up a new, well, it was an old smoke detector, but I took it off the ceiling and I put light bulbs, batteries in it, and it worked fine. Even though the home inspector said that it wasn't working. So it worked fine, it just needed new batteries. And I actually finally got it back up the ceiling with all the screws. So sometimes it takes me a while, but I'll get it. So I do cook. I just had to, we have to cook all the time now. So cook snacks and meals. So I do that. So back to you, Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Karen. This isolation actually got me thinking about a lot of things, and I felt that my mental health was not at its best. So when I said that I got to appreciate some things that I wouldn't have otherwise, was to look outside the window. It's a very small thing, when I say it, it doesn't feel like it's something big, but those couple of minutes that I actually looked outside gave me a sense of calm. And another thing that I did was go through all the old photos. For some, it might make them feel a little sad, but that got me to appreciate the really good things and the good times that I've had so far. So I used to go through my old pictures and things like that. And it actually makes such a huge difference when you step outside and get that bit of fresh air. That is another thing that I didn't appreciate much before. And one last thing that I did was make paper boats when it started raining and have paper boat races with my roommates. So these are a couple of things that I did. Thank you so much for volunteering. I had 5 topics and you all volunteered to do these topics. Thank you, and over to you, Toastmaster of the day. I would like to check with the timer if all the speakers qualify.
Yes, Madam Table Topics Master, all speakers qualified on time.
All right, and I would like to check with the grammarian if everybody used the word of the day.
Madam Table Topics Master, everyone did use the word of the day.
All right, so we have first speaker, Dawn, who spoke about what she learned from 2020 so far. We have second speaker was Lee. He spoke about what was his favorite sport. Third speaker was Nicholas. He spoke about if you would like to learn a new skill or master an old one. Our fourth speaker was Marcia. She's told us what she would tell her audience when she's giving a TED Talk on surviving isolation. And our last speaker was Karen, who spoke about if she could go back in time, what would she tell her pre-isolation self? Kindly send your votes to Mark Sims, and over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you so much, Indu. Wonderful questions, very thoughtful. I liked all of those. One of the other things that I've picked back up, something that I used to do, and I never thought for a second that it would be a life-saving skill, but it may turn out that it is sewing. I've been making my own masks. I've been ordering mask material or materials off of Etsy, looking for the right materials, and the masks that I've been making, oh, I gotta tell you, they're not easy to breathe through. They are 2 layers of dish towels with a layer, more or less a decorative layer over that. But I found a site that said that the 2 layers of dish towels was really, really close to an N95 mask in terms of its effectiveness. So I'm willing to put up with it. As long as I can breathe through it and not pass out, I'll be okay. But I have to admit, it's been interesting. I actually have 3 sewing machines. I replaced one of mine recently with a baby lock serger, for anybody who happens to know what a baby lock serger is. And it's been interesting because by the time you do dish towels, I had one point at which I was trying to sew through 18 layers of fabric, 12 of which were dish towels, and I was breaking needles. That was really way too thick. I had to redesign some of the patterns. But one of the skills that I used to do, and I'm familiar with it, I've got all the machines set up on my kitchen table at the moment, or dining room table, I should say. And it's one of the things that I've gotten back into as a result of being isolated and really needing them. Our third portion of the meeting, of course, is our general evaluation portion of the meeting. And that is going to be led this evening by Lee King. Take it away, Lee.
Good evening. This is the general evaluation portion of the meeting. This is where everybody gets constructive feedback. And I will start that with our speakers for today. If I could please have Dawn evaluate Rob.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator and fellow Toastmasters, and especially you, Rob. I will do my best with this. So the title of your speech was Say It With Style, which I really like that because truthfully, it sounded a little bit like you're going to dance, but you did not. But I was wondering what was going to come from that. My evaluation style will be the countdown method. So I really liked a lot of things. I tried to find just a few things to pull out to discuss and to have an example of each, which I hope I will do justice with that. So the first area that I like to talk about is interest, the interest that you drew from your speech and the layout or how you constructed the content. And I really like the way that you do that because I think you hit upon different learning styles by presenting as you present. You sort of present at a high level that this is what you are going to present. You're going to present your own learning style, which is the supported style. And then you explain that a bit, and then you explain how people change their communication styles depending on the audience. And you did, and then another thing that I like that you did was by bringing in discussing your friend Courtney, I think that showed a level of comfort to tell us about your friend. And then you also, you brought in your, how do they phrase it? Your gestures. And you said that she is your friend, and she's also your coworker. And you did that a few times, and you did that with something else where you go this way, and then to present the opposite, you go the opposite way. And I think that really draws in your audience on a new level. So going back to the different learning styles, I think that you capture is by starting off with your supported style, and then when you're talking with your friend Courtney, when she's your friend, you do the supported style. When she's your coworker, you do the analytic style. And by bringing in your friend, maybe someone in your audience, not one of us, of course, but if it were in person, someone might not be paying that much attention. But then when you bring in a story, then we want to listen. You know, somebody who's kind of one ear in, one ear out. Also, I think when you brought in Captain Obvious, some of us are like, now how are you going to bring that full circle to make it pertinent? And then you do to give it a really nice pause. Well, that's me. I'm Captain Obvious. And you changed up your vocal style, which was really nice. I'm afraid of going over time, so I'm going to move into things that you may want to work on. I love your gestures. Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to go over. I love your gestures. I think that you might do a few too many, because then the ones that are great, like your back and forth, or you did something like this, might get a little bit lost in them being so continuous, that the ones that are the best might get a little bit lost. I also thought, going by your time, I think you had already started to go over by the time you started talking about the direct communication. I don't really have, I might be wrong because I didn't actually time it. I was just going off my clock, and I might be wrong on that, but I was thinking you had hit 7 minutes by then. And I think I'm right with that. And then you went on to another point. But then when you did your, like your summary at the end was really nice. And I think if you had left out the direct communication part, you would have, the summary would have packed a little bit more of a punch. And then you went into, well, everybody changes their communication style, which was really nice. So what did I specifically like? My favorite part of your speeches is always, I think, how you kind of go, and then you pause. And it kind of gives us a chance to kind of catch up mentally that, oh yeah, that was a good point. I'm with you, and then keep going. Anyway, I think that's sort of, I don't know, internal's not the right word, but it is probably just a part of who you are and definitely part of your communication style. But I think it makes it very easy to listen to because you're going, and then you pause, catch up, keep going. Okay, back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you. Now if we could have John, who's evaluating Dagan.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests, and especially Dagan. Dagan's speech tonight was catch a liar. And one of his goals was to learn or review basic research methods and present a well-organized, well-researched speech on the topic. Well, his topic was catching a liar, and it goes back to his history of being in loss prevention and all the other things he does to catch people in the act. So I wanted to start with, I thought that your speech was very good. I mean, let's start with that. You gave us a lot of great information. That's why I think it was absolutely the best. You gave us very detailed information on what to look for to catch a liar. And I think that's great. And I actually wrote it down, so I'll try to remember. I'll probably forget. But try to remember which way their eyes are pointing and figure out what they're saying and what they're doing and if I think they're lying or not. But you did present us with some really great information. Like I said, that is my favorite part of what you did. You had a good opening, and I would have preferred that your ending be a little stronger. It kind of didn't wrap up quite as much as I like to, although I thought it was interesting the way you ended it with, "Oh, go out and catch a liar," and that was great. I enjoyed that. I just wish there was more, maybe a little more recap or something that you could have done. The other thing that I'd like for you to work on is, and I know this isn't typically the case because you're an experienced Toastmaster, you kind of started off a little flustery and a lot of ahs and ums, and you just seemed a little, unrelaxed, and I know you've done a lot better than that, so tonight was just a little bit off for you as far as I can tell. So work on that. And like I said, I thought you did a great job. You provided us the research that you did with both your experience and life. And as you didn't mention this, but I know that you used to be an MP too, so you've always kind of been law enforcement man. And the somebody Walensky, training courses and things like that you did for learning and loss prevention. And that was two really good resources and points of research that you mentioned to us. So all in all, great speech. Love the information. Thought you did a pretty good job. So all in all, thank you. Have a good one. Mr. General Evaluator.
All right. At this time, I'll ask for a timers report. Did our evaluators qualify on time?
Mr. General Evaluator, John Vessel's qualified on time.
Okay. With that, there will be no need to vote. Excuse me. At this point, I'll go ahead and do just a brief evaluation of the meeting as a whole. Overall, thought it was a really good meeting. I know we were running a little bit late. We had some people that are still new to joining the online platform. I certainly understand why we might need a little more time to get started. Everybody was well prepared. I thought everybody had their roles ready to go. They were able to explain their roles. And I was very impressed with how everything came together tonight. Really good theme. The table topics met the theme very well. And I like how it took volunteers, but at the same time also incorporated that suspense. You didn't necessarily know what the question was going to be before someone asked it. Just a couple of minor things. I think probably the one thing that really stood out to me was the timing card. I don't know that the yellow card in yellow marks a lot on white paper worked real well. I personally had a hard time seeing that was yellow, although I knew that green was pretty distinct and red was pretty distinct. So I would definitely consider just putting that in black or something, maybe, or writing all of it in black. I'm not real sure how other people perceived it. But that's just kind of what I noticed. The only other thing that I noticed was the word of the day was a little bit late. Perhaps just making sure that that's ready when the meeting starts. One thing that I like to do is, it's just a few minutes before the meeting starts, and I hadn't really thought about a word of the day. One thing you can do is just go do a Google search, put in word of the day, and it actually gives you the word of the day according to the dictionary. So that's always a good way to just save yourself and have that ready to go at the start of the meeting. With that, I will now go ahead and call for our different duty roles. So can I hear from our posture monitor, please?
Yes. And there was actually, there's quite a bit of feedback I have to give, and I was wondering how it would work doing a posture bell duty holder on Zoom. But I'll start off with myself. For whatever my reasons or thinking, I caught myself doing this, not while I was speaking, but just listening. And keep in mind, since I can see everyone at once, even if you're not speaking, I can see if you're doing something that might distract. And then Rob pointed this out last week that I yawned, and I must have been really tired today because I must have yawned 4 or 5 times tonight. My eyes were a little droopy, so I probably needed to have got in bed earlier last night. Nicholas, when you were talking at one point, your fingers were very prominently interlaced and moving. I noted that. And one time earlier on, I forget if you were talking or not, but you lifted up your shirt, I think, to wipe your mouth. And I don't think you were talking at that time. John Vessels, when you were not speaking, I saw that too. You must have like scratched your head numerous times. Just FYI, again, normally we would not notice that at a meeting when we were looking at the speakers and you were simply in the audience. I saw that. Rob Giles, now, Don brought this out very well about your gestures when you were speaking. Very good, very expressive. You stood up, which helped me to see the hand gestures. And on one occasion, I remember you used this gesture. It's similar to the okay gesture, not quite. Talk about like analytics and initiate, and then you use two to emphasize the two different characteristics. But overall, very good gestures, as noted. Dagan, when you were speaking, some of your hand gestures, I assume you were sitting down, were maybe cut off a little bit by the bottom part of the Zoom screen. Karen, at one point when you were not speaking, you were playing with a pen very prominently. And then at one point when you were speaking, I saw you like brush back hair very prominently. Indu, I want to say that you're all throughout the meeting when someone was talking, you would give very good feedback by affirmatively nodding. It is very helpful, very good feedback for a speaker to get. And the final thing is, Don, when you were speaking at one point, evaluating, you at one point pulled your hair back really prominently. And that is it. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Could I have a grammarian's report, please?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So for our first speech with Rob used the word of the day, remarkable. He also used adjustment, facilitate, and I really liked his use of the word, succinct. I thought that was a great word in addition to his speech. Dagan did use the word of the day. He also used nevertheless, which I really like. I like using that word to transition into one topic to another. Posture, just like the posture monitor. Respiration was very good. And then visually recalling is a good use, and it was used very well in his descriptions. Just very good contrast all in all between liars and lying and truths. Dawn used faith quite a bit, which I actually really liked. I thought it was a very good point in her table topic speech. Remarkable. She used hopeful and then pertinent as well, which is a word I really like. She used that in in her evaluation of Rob. Lee used remarkable. He used the word amazing, and then I really liked the usage of the word eclectic. That's a word that I haven't heard that much, but very good word. Marcia, in her table topic speech, used the word of the day. She used overemphasized, and then hustling and bustling, which is a really cool phrase. Karen did use remarkable, and then really liked in the beginning when she was using anxious. She really emphasized that word, and I think everyone has been feeling that during this time as well. John, in your evaluation, used detailed and then used the word of the day as well. Counter. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
And you can actually go ahead and give the counters report.
Okay. Yes, I'll give that as well. So Rob did not use any ahs, ums, or any filler words. Dagan said 3 times in the very beginning of the speech. He used 4 times as well. And that was in the beginning, and then said during the explanation of different types of shoplifters. Dawn used 3 times in her table topic speech, and then once in the evaluation. Lee didn't use any. Marcia used 1 I noticed. Karen only used 2 and then John used only one and only 1 you know. Back to you.
All right. At this point, I will go ahead and call for the best of the big 3. So please vote for who you thought did the best job between Mark Schroeder as Toastmaster, Indu as Table Topics Master, and myself as General Evaluator. I will now go ahead and move into the business portion of the meeting, which really won't take that long, as we don't really have any new business. We held our officer elections last week. We also discussed when or how much longer will be virtual, which looks like it will definitely be at least through the end of June at the minimum, although I wouldn't be surprised if it goes longer than that. We do have one guest. So Marcia, will you please share with us what you thought about tonight's meeting?
Sorry about that. I was privately chatting with Devin about business, about paying for membership. So I am, again, grateful for the opportunity to join you all this evening. I enjoyed, definitely the table topics was great. Great information and stories that were shared. And so come next week, I will be part of the group.
Okay, great. Sounds good. And with that, we do have Karen Lee, who just rejoined. So I'm going to figure out exactly how we will do the voting in of new members. That is,
You move her into a breakout room.
oh, we could do that actually. I didn't even think about that. Mark, do you have that set up?
I can probably do that. Let's see what let me see what I can do. I suspect what I have to do is it will be easier for me to move Karen into a breakout room and bring her back than it will to move everybody else.
What does that mean?
All right, should we just wait till next week? We vote both people in because
That's just what I was thinking. Yeah, if Marcia is going to join, we'll just do that next week. So it's just tradition in Toastmasters and in our club that we vote in new members. Traditionally, we would take them outside of the room that we're meeting in and call for the vote. Since we're doing this virtually, Mark will figure out a way to put the 2 of them in a private room.
Yeah, it may be a touch interesting. I was just looking at it. It does say when I go to 2 rooms, 5 participants per room, even manual.
Oh, really?
I bet you I still have got some control. I'll have to test that.
Okay.
What if we just turned off the audio and the video? Wouldn't that be easier?
Well, then you would know when we were done.
We don't, yeah, you'll never know when to come back.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, when you go into these virtual meeting rooms, what happens is that you'll actually be directed back to here.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
it's almost like you're in a much smaller meeting for a little while, and then we bring you back together.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll figure that out. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share this evening? All right, I believe.
I do.
Yes.
Just one quick thing. Rob looks just like Captain Obvious.
Yes.
So I think Indu wanted to meet with the officers briefly. At this point, let's go ahead and get a vote counters report.
The best speaker is Dagan Newland. The best evaluator is John Vessels. No. Scratching his head again. The best table topic participant is Marcia Collins. And the best of the big three is Indu Pathmanathon.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Unless you're an officer,
It was
stay
really
tuned.
good
Starting
meeting y'all.
now as facilitator in